I don't think I would have chosen to do this again if I had known how long it would take. Up to 6 hours a day making these figurines. It's driving me a little bit insane, so I'm going to take a bit of a break from these. It took me more than a month to get this back on my needles, just with all of the different deadlines, which is just the loveliest red color I think I've ever seen. I love how this looks. So the biggest issue is going to be to figure out what I was trying to do. And then hi! Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Lene and I'm a knitter from Norway, and welcome to my knitting podcast. Here I talk about all things knitting, current projects, finished projects, planned projects. Sometimes I talk a little bit about yarn, just anything that pops into my head while we sit here and chat. Thank you so much for coming to hang out with me this week. I am feeling really good about all my projects. The closer we get to Christmas, the better I feel about how I'm doing. But also the closer we get to Christmas, the more deadlines seem to just kind of pop up that I hadn't thought about. But all in all, I am really pleased with where I am with my projects, and I think I'm going to be able to end the year without any deadlines, which is the goal, and then hopefully I'll be able to stay away from deadlines for a little while. But before we get into everything from this week, I wanted to talk a little bit about what I'm wearing, and today I'm wearing my sweater number 14. Here it is. It's huge, so it's a bit hard to show it all, but here the sweater number 14 is. My favorite detail is this split. I love an oversized sweater with a split. I don't love oversized long sweater that much if there isn't a split, but as long as I get a split in there, they turn into my absolutely most used sweaters, and this is one of my most used sweaters. But the last couple of months, ever since I went through my knitted closet last, this has been at the bottom of a pile. I try to categorize my knits, and this has been at the bottom of the pile of the oversized chunky knits, and immediately when something is at the bottom, it just gets a bit harder to reach for it. So I haven't used this that much the last couple of months. I can't really remember how long it's been, but it's been quite a while. But I had to dig it out now. It's not super Christmassy in the color or in any of the details, but I think that Advent and Christmas, and especially the period between Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, what we call Romjula, is the most cozy time of year. So I really wanted to dig this out before that to have my favorite cozy sweater to wear. It is really cozy. This is knit in, let me try to remember the name. It's knit in Drops Baby Merino and in Drops Puna, so 100% merino yarn fingering weight, and then kind of a really thin DK weight, 100% alpaca, and I love that. I think you're supposed to knit this with 1 fingering weight and 2 strands of mohair, and that did not kind of live up to my cozy dream of this sweater, so I decided against the mohair. My skin can handle mohair, but I cannot relax while wearing mohair, so I wanted to avoid that, and I have always a lot of baby merino on hand, and I also had some puna, so I was able to make a swatch, and the gauge was right. So I made this. I had to get yarn in these colors because Puna isn't a yarn I usually knit with, but this has totally convinced me on Puna. I think this was my second time using Puna, and it is lovely. And I think I have a lot of favorite things about this, but my favorite thing, knitting wise, is that this does not pill. I think it maybe pilled a bit in the beginning, but this is, I think, almost 3 years old now. I think it's going to turn 3 years in the first months of the new year, and it might have pilled a bit in the beginning, but even though I've used it tons since, it hasn't really pilled ever since that first shedding of the alpaca. I don't know if you can see. And also with this light fabric, it would be really obvious if this was filled with pills. And I have a couple of sweaters that just pill if you look at it at them. And especially with oversized sweaters, I do find that they pill a little bit easier because the oversized nature of it means that more of the fabric rubs together all of the time. But this just works. I have also, because I think this is so cozy and because I love the yarn combination so much, I did use it again, but in some kind of, I think this is in light grey, both colors, and then I did it again in, I think, charcoal grey in the Puna and greyish in the Web Merino, so that's more of a marled sweater. That's also newer. It's about half a year right now, and that has pilled a little bit more. I still think that that might just be the first like layer of the loose alpaca fibers shedding, and then I hope that that will also stop pilling, because I really hope that it's not just a one-off for this, and that this combination just is a superior yarn combination where the yarn just does not pill. I really hope so, because that means that these sweaters will be able to live with me forever. And the other version I made is also a lot less oversized. I don't know why. My intention might have been different. I might have done another size. I can't really remember, because I can't really remember what I did with this. But if I didn't say, this is sweater number 14 V-neck by Myfavouritethings.knitwear. And then the other version I made is the sweater number 14, just the regular one. But yeah, that is my sweater that I'm wearing today, and definitely one of the sweaters I used the most during 1 year. But I think that's enough said about this sweater, and we can get into everything I've been doing this week. And I think we'll start with what's not knitting related, because I have been doing quite a bit of crochet. I am making my son an advent calendar this year. He has had an advent calendar, I think this is his 3rd year. The first year he only got fruit, and then last year he got a fruit a day, and my mom had made ornaments. And then this year neither my mom or I had thought about it until the middle of November, so I decided that I was going to do the advent calendar. Just it doesn't need to be something super elaborate was my thought going into this. I just wanted something little to like make the wait towards Christmas more exciting. But the pattern I found that made me the most excited was this, I don't know how you pronounce this, nativity scene, question mark, that's crocheted. It's a free pattern, so I just fell in love with that. I also thought that would be very Christmassy, and there are quite a few characters, so it would fit very well into like the countdown towards Christmas, and then the countdown kind of like end with Jesus being the figurine. So I was very sold on that idea, and it didn't look that bad to do it. And I think there are maybe 12 figurines, so that would like deal with half of the days, and then the rest of the days I am thinking I'm going to do flowers or some very specific ornaments for the activity we're doing that day. But I think right now, when I'm filming this, we're at the 5th day, the 5th of December, so I have been doing this for a little while. Of course, I started planning this about the middle of November, but I didn't have time to start until the night before December 1st. So for all of this, I've been not behind schedule because I'm managing to do it, but all of these figurines have been finished at like 1 to 2 a.m. the day they're getting gifted, so that's been quite stressful, but it is turning out to be really worth it. My son's really excited about it. What wakes me up in the morning is him going around muttering to himself, guessing to himself what kind of character he's going to be getting. So it has been worth it, but I don't think I would have chosen to do this again if I had known how long it would take. So the first character I started with was this angel, because there was only one angel and it looked simple in the pattern, and this took me 6 hours, so that was a quite brutal awakening to what was in front of me. I do think now, after actually having read the pattern, which I of course did not do before starting, that the angel might have been one of the most intricate, because this has a lot of different parts to it, but I did get it. I think it turned out really cute. I'm also only using mine and my mom's scrap yarn to do this. So some of the yarn is a lot more chunky than the other. Some is cotton, some is wool. It's just a mix of what we have, but I think they are turning out cute. So here is the little angel. We were also supposed to have this in a gold color. I didn't have that, so I used white and just wrapped some gold thread around. So this was the first character. And then the 2 next days I had 2 different shepherds. First I did this one because this had an extra step with the shepherd's hook here. This also turned out really cute, and my son is a huge fan of shepherds. If you ask him what he wants to become when he gets older, he wants to be a shepherd. So these were a huge hit. I also made another one. This wasn't as huge of a hit because it didn't have that shepherd's hook. I don't know what you call it, but wasn't as huge of a hit, but he did like both of these. And here you can kind of see the difficulty. This yarn is a lot thicker than what I used to make the beard and the head and the hair, whereas here it's more like appropriately sized, but they're just going to be a bit different, and they still look cute. I'm still really happy with them. And then the news characters now. He got Maria yesterday. I'm like quite happy with her. She didn't have that many parts, just like the base, which is head, body, sleeves, arms, and then she had hair, and then I don't know what this is even called, but this part. So she was quite a quick fix. And then today he got Joseph, which was more work because all of the men have beads, but other than that, not that much work for him either. So that's where I am right now, and I think I'm going to take a break really soon. Right now I have the 3 wise men left and Jesus. I have crocheted Jesus, but I'm going to save him until Christmas Eve. I have his crib left, and then I have 2 sheep and the donkey left. So I think I'm going to do the donkey today, just so that the shepherds and everyone has like an animal. My son's also not really pleased with them being in the barn without there being any animals there, so I'm going to make the donkey, and then I'm going to take a break just to space out the figurines a little bit, and to most importantly give myself a break, because it is cute, it is quite fun, but spending 6 hours a day, or some of them are quicker, but up to 6 hours a day making these figurines, it's driving me a little bit insane, so I'm going to take a bit of a break from these. I know that for I'm going to do an ornament this weekend because we're going to do some Christmas baking, so I'm going to make a gingerbread man, I'm pretty sure, if I can find a good pattern. And then I'm going to start working a bit on my son's Christmas because he will get a flower each day, and making the flowers is still quite a bit of work, but it is less than these figurines. I thought it would be the other way around, that's why I started with these. But I haven't made the Christmas flowers before, but I have made quite a few different flowers, and even the most intricate flowers I've made, they've never taken me 6 hours. So hopefully switching what I'm making for a couple of days will give me more of a break and more of an opportunity to work on something else than just these figurines. But so far I am really happy with them, and my son's loving them. He's playing with them during the day. So I think this will be a huge hit. And what I really love about the advent calendar this year and also last year is that he's getting something each day that he's super excited about, but it's also helping us decorate our house a little bit each day. So we're just not buying in bulk and filling our house with something, and he's getting something, but we'll be able to take it out every year and just fill our house with homemade decorations a little bit at a time. So I've really been enjoying that. And then for the knitting, I have been able to do a little bit of knitting this week, but not as much as I'd hoped to, because the figurines have taken so much more time than I had thought. But let me just try to dig through this basket because it gets tangled up so quickly. Oh no, now I'm losing all of my stitches too, but I did finally this week get to cast on my Siri Cardigan again. I've been waiting to do that for more than a month now. I think the first time I tried casting it on was the 25th of October, and then I just managed to cast it on again now, just a couple of days ago. So it took me more than a month to get this back on my needles, just with all of the different deadlines, but it's finally back on my needles. I am loving it. It's in a much better gauge now. It's still definitely not the fabric it is supposed to be, but it is a fabric I'm really happy with. But I'm making this Siri Cardigan by Lene, Holm, Samsøe. I think you're supposed to make it in either like Sandnes Garn Poppy, something like that, or I think you're supposed to use one strand of DK and then lace weight yarn with that. But I'm just using a quite like thin DK strand in the Sandnes Garn alpaca, which this is also 100% alpaca, and alpaca also acts very differently than 100% wool. So I am anticipating this having a very different gauge. One, because I've gone down a whole needle size from doing 6mm needles to doing 5mm needles, and I'm also working with thinner yarn. So the sizing is just going to be different, but then the drape is also going to be very, very, very different because of the alpaca. Alpaca has a much like looser, more flowy drape. So I am struggling to figure out if I want to follow the pattern in terms of the sizing and how much positive ease. I think you're supposed to have like 25 to 30 centimeters of positive ease. And if I want that, I definitely have to size up. But what I really enjoy with this pattern is that you cast on the same amount of stitches, which gives me so much time to figure out the more I see the fabric grow, because what size you're going to be making is how many increases you do. So I can just kind of keep an eye on this, maybe steam block it and kind of see how it acts. But I am right now leaning towards doing my regular size and just having a bit less positive ease, because this is going to be so drapey, and it has more drape because of the fiber, and the gauge is also looser. So I think it might just be more flattering if it isn't as oversized as this, if you know what I mean. So trying to figure that out, haven't quite figured it out, but this is how it's looking so far. I am really, really, really pleased. I have just finished the German short rows. Kind of when I start doing German short rows, especially on structure, I just have to finish those German short rows before I do anything else, because if not, I get so confused. I don't know where I am. I don't know what I'm doing. I can't understand anything. I'm a huge fan of German short rows, and I don't think they are like too hard or anything, but I just can't pick up and put down German short rows. So that's something that I have to do in one sitting. So I did manage to do that, and then I think I've had the time to do maybe 3 rows after that. But it's been really nice to get that time to do those 3 rows, because as I was doing the German short rows, I was doubting myself so much, like I'm never going to understand this pattern. I couldn't read my work and know what to do next at all. I had to look back at the pattern all of the time. But now that I don't have the German short rows to worry about anymore, and I've been able, just for a couple of rows, to just look at my work and really try to figure it out, I am so much closer to figuring out the structure now without looking at the pattern. I have figured most of it out. I'm still struggling a little bit to figure out 100% the last increases to make some of the cables match up, and I also haven't figured out how often you're going to do the cables. So I am anticipating having to look at the pattern for maybe the next 5 to 10 rows. But hopefully after that I'll be good and I'll be able to just look at my work instead of looking back at the pattern all of the time. That is my favorite part of working on something structured, the point where you can kind of stop pulling out the pattern all of the time and just start looking at your work and really understanding what's supposed to happen, because I make so many fewer mistakes then before I've learned the pattern for a structure. When I'm trying to read the pattern, I make mistakes all of the time because I cannot for the life of me keep like things straight. I start reading the wrong line, I read from the wrong side, it's chaos immediately. I forget steps, but when I can look at my work and actually see what I'm supposed to do, it becomes so much easier for me. So I'm really excited to get to that point now, and yeah, to also get further on this, because right now it isn't really looking like anything. I told my son I was working on a jacket for myself, and he was like, no, this is so small, Mom, you're not working on a jacket for yourself at all. This will maybe be a cowl, if that. So he was not impressed, and I kind of get that, but I hope I'll be able to get to the point. I don't know if I'll get to the point where I separate for sleeves, but at least where you can kind of see the shoulder caps form and see this turn into more of a wearable. I really hope to be able to get to that point this week. Best case scenario would be to try it on after I'd separated for sleeves, but to at least be able to like drape it over myself and kind of see how we're doing. I really want to get there so I can figure out what kind of size I'm doing. But yeah, that's how it's looking so far. I also love how this looks in the sun. I think this is going to become a favorite jacket of mine. It's probably not going to be super wintry and warm because of the gauge being so holy and gapey, but it is also alpaca, so I think it will be warm enough to wear inside and to wear under a coat. That's also why I'm leaning towards maybe not doing so much positive ease, but I don't think it will be a jacket I wear outside without anything on top. But I'm super excited to finally have cast that on, and crossing my fingers that I'll have time to work on it. And then another project that I really wanted to start this week, it was my main goal honestly this week, to get this back on my needles, is my Christmas sweater. I don't know if you've been watching me for more than a year, you probably saw me cast this on. I cast this on 3rd of December last year, so it has been officially more than a year with this on my needles, and it's been tucked away in the corner for most of that time because I really wanted this to be my Christmas sweater last year. I love the color. It's Hillesvåg Ask in the color Farmer's Red, which is just the loveliest red color I think I've ever seen. I love how this looks. So I started making a sweater, and I also then was making a ton of Christmas gifts. I was on a time crunch. I couldn't really focus on this. This is also without a pattern, so I couldn't just sit down and work on it mindlessly. I had to think all of the time. I had to frog a lot of the time. But I did get quite far. and I didn't stop working on it until I think maybe a bit into January, but I wasn't so motivated to finish a Christmas sweater in January. I thought, okay, I'll just pick this back up in October, November next year, so I'm sure it will be done by next Christmas. And here we are, and I have not picked it up, but this week I did today actually, because I just needed to get it back on my needles, because I'm pretty sure if I hadn't done it this year, it would never happen. And I'm already running into a bit of an issue, because let me show you. This is where we're at. I am also, because I decided I'd started to work on it 2 places at the same time, so the yarn was wonderfully tangled when I started trying to work on this again. I have done maybe half a sleeve or something, and then I've done most of the body, I think. But the issue is that I don't know what I was thinking when I was making this sweater, because it's been a year. I know that I wanted a high turtleneck, and I can see that this is 2x2 ribbing, so I know that the ribbing I'm going to do is going to be 2x2, but I cannot remember the frequency I'm doing decreases on the sleeves, or how often I thought I would do those. I cannot really remember what I wanted to do with the body, the length of the body. I'm also struggling a little bit to figure that out now, because it's not the easiest to figure out length of sweaters right now, but I'm pretty sure I was thinking split hem, because it is oversized, not as oversized as this, but I don't want it to be like a crop top. A lot of my sweaters end up as almost crop tops, because I really enjoy when they hit me like right at the line of my pants, but I don't want my Christmas sweater to hit me here, because it gets quite cold in the winter, especially if I try to raise my arms. So I think I want the sweater to kind of reach this point, and then from here there will be a split. So I think I started to make a video of the process of designing this, so hopefully I can find the videos and try to understand what I was trying to do, and then I'll just have to try this on a bunch to see when it reaches that point where it hits my pants, and then I'll do a ribbing. And I think that will be quite similar to this, a quite long ribbing where it is a bit shorter in the front than it is in the back. This is so long it's kind of hard to show, but I think it will be something like this. But yeah, that's my Christmas sweater so far. I think it's going to be lovely. I can remember from the times I made this that I did really enjoy it. This is also, I don't really have any turtlenecks in my wardrobe. I have tried to make a couple, but they always feel like they're choking me out. So with this one, my main focus was to make the turtleneck just huge. It's quite high too, but to make it really wide, and I really nailed that from what I can remember from the last time trying it on, that it did not feel like it was strangling me, and that is also pre-washing this. I also, this is a yarn that I think you can knit on like 3.5mm needles. It is quite thin, and I'm knitting on 5mm needles, so I think it might also bloom a little bit. I don't know. I know I made a swatch, but I just have to find those old videos to try to see what I was trying to do. But it is finally back on my needles, and I think I found one video from January where I was trying it on, and it was really close to hitting my pants. I think we're really close to splitting for the ribbing, and then we'll just see. This is kind of close to being done, since the body doesn't have that much left, and I've also done half a sleeve. So the biggest issue is going to be to figure out what I was trying to do. And then I also, what I can very vividly remember is that I wanted to embroider on this. I wanted to embroider stars. I don't know if I maybe have my swatch back here, so you can see what I want like the finished fabric to look like. So here is my little swatch where I've done some embroidery. I've tried a couple of different colors. So here is Gold Star double-stranded, and then we have the Gold Star single-stranded, and then the silver one. I thought it was the easiest to do with the silver, but I think I'm definitely going to go with the gold to make this the most Christmassy it can be. But I don't know if I'm going to do double or single strand yet, because I don't know what I prefer. Do you have any preference? I'm kind of leaning towards this so it stands out, maybe. But yeah, also going to embroider on it before it's like 100% done. So hopefully we'll reach that by Christmas. I can have my Christmas sweater. I would prefer, if I finished it now during Advent, I would have it for as long as possible during this like Christmassy season. But as long as I finish it before the end of the year, I'm going to be happy. I also think, even though it is my like Christmas sweater, I think I'm going to be using it a ton during the rest of the year because it is a red color I do really enjoy. As far as I can remember, I did really enjoy the fit because I didn't design it to fit my wants. And yeah, I think it's just going to be a huge hit. I think maybe that the gold stars are going to tip it into being a little bit more of a Christmas sweater, but I think it still will work as kind of a year-round sweater, hopefully. So I just want to finish it this year because I don't think I'll have the motivation to carry that with me into another year. It needs to be done now. It's been on my needles for far too long already, just taking up space and tangling up with all of my other projects. So those are the two knitting projects I've kind of been working on this week that are still whips. And it's also so lovely to finally be working on some projects for myself. I would not say that I am a selfish knitter. Most of the time I do gift knits, but the last 3 months I've done just only gift knits, and I usually try to sprinkle in a little selfish knit here and there, but I just have not really had the time the last couple of months. It's just been slippers, and then a couple of baby gifts, and now my son's advent calendar. So it's been really nice to work on some of my projects again. Not that I'm in like dire needs of more sweaters or cardigans, but it is really nice to spend some of my crafting time on myself. So I am really happy that some of the projects I am working on now are for me, and also that I'm getting some of my old whips out of here. And then I thought that I would show you the project. I think it was last week. I can't really remember because my knitting is a bit of a chaos right now with all of these different projects and deadlines and plans. But now this is tangled up too. Let me try to see if I can get this figured out. But I think it was last week that I cast on this to kind of rebel against all of my other deadlines. Because I apparently would rather try to make everything as stressful as possible and procrastinate until I can't anymore. But this is, I can't show you because the yarn's so tangled up. There. This is the very, very, very tiny start to the Synne dress. This is really nothing else. It's just, I think, 3 rows of garter stitch in this alpaca silk from Sandnes Garn. Lovely yarn to work with. I think it's going to be a really nice dress, but again, not a priority. I cast it on because it's not a priority, so I would just have a fun project on the side, and I think this is going to be amazing for that. I just need to finish the first part of the pattern, because the first thing you do is that you make the little frill that goes around here with, first of all, a lot of stitches. I think I cast on almost 300 stitches, and then there is also a lot of lace work, so that isn't as relaxing. So I really hope to be able to get through the lace work one evening, just so I can get to the point where there just is miles of stockinette in the round, first to make the yoke and then to make the dress. I think that would be a really wonderful mindless project to have in between everything else, and maybe to relax myself after the advent calendar sometimes. So it's not a priority, but I really hope to be able to work on this one evening so that I can finish the lace. The lace is also difficult enough that I can't really be working on it throughout the day. So I just have to finish that one evening so that this is ready to be a mindless stockinette project, hopefully soon. But I just wanted to show that because I had forgotten where I'd placed it last week, I think, and now I've found it again. So those are the projects I have on my needles right now that I am imagining actually being able to work on. And then of course I have my husband's Marius sweater in here somewhere that I'm also hoping to work on. I still have hope that I'm going to be able to make that for Christmas for him. I am starting to lose hope that I'll be able to make my own Marius sweater in time for Christmas, but maybe it can just turn into my Christmas cast on, because I have not been able to get around to figuring out what else to cast on for Christmas, so that might be a really good idea actually. So that's all for all of my whips. And then I did finish one project this week that was also a project that I wasn't really supposed to work on, was not supposed to spend a lot of time on, but those projects are often the most fun to spend time working on. So I've spent quite a lot of time working on this over the last couple of weeks, and then this week I finally finished that, and that is my Korshavn blanket by Strikkekaffe. This is knit in Drops Nepal in one of the grey colors. I don't think it's not the light grey. Maybe it's just cold grey. It might be called medium grey. Don't know. It's been more than half a year since I got this yarn. I got this originally for slippers, but then I just couldn't not cast this on. I've been wanting to make the Korshavn blanket in Nepal for quite some time. I've seen it a couple of times on Instagram, and it just looks so wonderfully chunky and huge. So I've been itching to do that, and then I found out I was pregnant. So I just could not stop myself anymore. I just had to cast this on, and I already had the yarn on hand, even though it was supposed to be for something else. So I did cast on, and I don't regret it. I also decided to cast on the biggest size because I wanted the blanket I made in Nepal to be as huge and chunky and last for as long as possible. Basically, it's really hard to show, but it covers my whole lap when I sit down with it. So I think this could last a baby a really long time. Definitely until they're no longer a baby. I think until they're 2 years, 3 years tops maybe. But yeah, this is lovely. This is my second time making the Korshavn blanket. Loved it the first time. Then I made it in Lima, so the same yarn as Nepal basically, but the DK version. And I made that for my newest cousin, she turns 1 in April. So, and they've used this blanket loads. I don't think I saw her once when she was like a tiny baby without this blanket. So I'm just really excited for this. It is a lovely blanket, and it is also the first thing I've made specifically for this baby. I have made quite a few things over the last 3 years for the baby we wished for, but this is the first thing I've been able to make since we figured out that we were getting a baby, so that also makes it a bit special. And making just a huge grey blanket while waiting has also been nice, because this is nice for a baby, but without knowing much about who they're going to be, this will just fit just about anyone. So that's the first thing. Now I am really excited to get more into baby knits. I've said this whole year that 2025 is going to be my year of doing baby knits, and it really has been, because everyone I knew has been getting babies. All of my friends a lot of my families. I've been doing so many baby gifts, but I can only imagine what a year of Baby Knits 2026 can be, because I will finally be able to knit for my own baby again. I have been itching to do that for years. I have been doing it a little bit here and there and saving up some projects, but now I can actually do it and know that there will hopefully be a baby. So I'm really excited for that. That's also why I want to finish all of these deadlines, leave them in this year, so I can just have fun with baby knitting marathon in the new year. I don't think I'll be able to start doing much in December because I have so much else that I really want to have finished before then. But in January I'll probably start, and there will probably be a lot of baby knits, but I am really struggling to figure out what to knit because we already have so much. I kept everything for my son and I went crazy when knitting for him too, so we have so many boxes, so I need to go through that. And also there are so many beautiful baby patterns, there's so many things to choose from, so I am struggling to decide what to do, but hopefully I will figure it out and I'll be back with the plan in January, so I can just knit all of the baby clothes. I'm really excited for that, but I think that's everything I've been doing and thinking about and planning this week. So I hope you enjoyed today's or this week's episode. So I really hope you enjoyed this week's podcast. If you did, please leave a like and a comment. That means the absolute world to me. And if you want to see more from me, please subscribe. Bye!